Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading video here on my channel, and in today's video I want to, in preparation for Snowmageddon, just do a random reading vlog. I am kind of trying to do one reading vlog every single month. That's one of my goals for 2026, but I don't know if I'm going to actually accomplish that every single month. However, I figured, like I said, because it's Snowmageddon, aka everybody's freaking out about the snow, we have a lot of snow incoming, I could sit in here, potentially tackle a lot of my books because I've already pumped out a lot of videos, have them pre-filmed, and honestly the only other thing that I've considered is, unlike everybody else who's just trying to freak out and stay inside, I have considered maybe possibly going out, and if the thrift stores are open, going and thrifting while nobody else is out, because now would be the perfect time to go do that because I'm in need of pants. I only have 2 pairs of pants and one pair of those already has a hole in them, so I need to replace those. And I was trying to do that last night when we were at Walmart picking up some duck calls, and of course their changing rooms weren't open because it was almost midnight. I think it was like 11 p.m. But yeah, there's not much going on this weekend. It might also be not so much a weekend vlog, but more of a reading vlog over the course of a couple days, maybe a week or two. I have a lot of books that I do really want to get to, and I really want to read a specific book next that I got from the library. I picked up 2 books for the first time since maybe high school from the library, or my local library, and I'm super excited about them. So enough talking, let's go ahead and hop into this reading vlog. To start off this reading vlog, I am just a bit of a ways in to a book by Colleen Cobble. It is called Strands of Truth. This is the last book that I was going to at least read for my January TBR. I haven't read all of those books from that list, but I think I've tackled almost every single one besides this one and maybe another one. This is still following her mystery subplot of romance and also has some Christian values in it, but this is a standalone, and it kind of matches some of my other books from her where the Hope Beach trilogy on the spine, they're all running away, there's like mysteries, and I kind of like how that is, but also because it's not a part of the series, it's like, do I set this book on my shelf when I'm done with it right next to that series, or do I try and space it out a little bit? Otherwise, I have gotten a little bit into this. I've been reading a lot today. I'm 76 pages into this. This is not my first day that I have started it, but I've only read like 10 pages, 20 pages the last couple days, and I want to dedicate a lot of my time today to this book, if not more so tomorrow. I would love to honestly finish this book this weekend because I still, like I said, want to tackle one specific book before the end of January, or maybe a couple books, and we are on the final week of the month of January, so now's my time. I need to get reading. I haven't really been reading much these last couple days because I've been working on our house, which will be in a house video once upon a time, but we might also tackle some of that this weekend. We have a lot of projects going on in the house, which I'm super excited about. This book, however, I like how it's kind of started off because you get a POV of the main character, or the main female. Her name is Harper, and we're in her mother's POV. She ends up getting killed, and you kind of find out why, and it's a potential murder. It could have been an accident. We don't know for sure right now, even 70 pages in, but it's more suspected murder. And on the back of the book, it also talks about how Harper ended up finding that she had a half-sister because she grew up not really knowing, like, she was in foster homes and stuff, so she didn't really know much about her mom after her grandma died, is who apparently raised her, but she had like a heart attack or something and her grandma died, and then she was placed in foster homes. So she finds that she has a half-sister named Annabelle, and her mom also mysteriously died, and we get more of her POVs, of her mom's at least, but we're also in Annabelle's POV every once in a while. So we have, technically there's 3 POVs right there, but we also have a 4th one, and it's not confusing. It's very easy to follow along, which is another main character. It's the male main character who is related to somebody that Harper is very close to. It's actually his son. His name is Ridge, and at the moment him and Harper don't necessarily get along. They're kind of like butting heads, more so him with Harper, and it's mainly because of, since she was like a foster kid and her dad kind of took notice of her under his wing just a little bit, found a home for her to live in. He always apparently gave her anything she wanted, but with his own 2 kids, they had to kind of work for themselves, provide for themselves. They just had a whole different life compared to what he gave to Harper. So there's a little bit of like resentment, but as I'm getting farther into this book, they're kind of coming along because actually Ridge's father, which I think this is also on the back of the book, he gets in a little accident. I won't exactly say how, but he gets in a little accident, and then there's something that happens, and now it's one of those like, hey, all this past is kind of connecting with what's been happening in this future. Is somebody out to get this specific person? Is there going to be another murder? Are all these attacks and all these other things based off of this one specific thing that this one politician is crying about? Or is there an actual person who's trying to murder our main character? So it's very interesting right now, very fast paced, considering I can read like 50 pages and feel like I've only read about 20, give or take, maybe 15. And I definitely want to get so much farther into this book because I love Colleen Cobble, and it's so nice to have a standalone too. I've been reading so many of her series here lately, more so trilogies. So to get into a standalone and not have to worry about completing that whole series is kind of nice. That's really all I have to update. I mean, we're setting up for the book, the plot, all the different POVs, kind of getting a little bit more information on the murders or potential murders, I'm excited to start off this vlog with this book. So let me go ahead, stop talking, go back in the living room, and continue reading this book. It's nice because right now we just got more information on the person who's behind some of these attacks, and I like how there's a specific person that is like ahead of him or above him giving him these orders, and then you have this person and he's doing it for one specific reason, and it's very close to another character that we have and some of the problems that she has. It's completely different, but it's like a medical thing. So I like how we're getting that little dynamic between those, and I just find it very interesting. And right now, as we're in this POV that I'm reading about and some things are going down, learning about more stuff on this houseboat or more things that he has been doing or is told to do is so exciting. We're getting a lot of breadcrumbs and it just is perfect. Little update, only got to page 106. I stopped to play Red Dead, do my daily objectives, and also to eat. And also I'm stopping because my husband just came home from duck hunting and we are going to kind of work on the house. He's going to sit for a little bit and relax, but otherwise we're going to get started and work on the house. So I need to switch over from this vlog to actually the house update vlog. Hello everybody. Please do not hate me. I'm so sorry for this reading vlog starting off the way that it is. However, I think I last updated, we were actively reading the first day when I came on here, and I was maybe around like 80 or so pages. I am so sorry. It's been a lot of days. I'm talking at least 2, if not 4 or 5, and that is more so because we took a little bit of a break. I did not read for at least 2 days in a row, if not 3 days, and it was mainly because we went to Home Depot after it snowed. Well, first after it snowed, we played in the snow, and then afterwards, that was like a whole night that we did that. We tried sledding, but then later on we went to Home Depot, spent close to $500, and we got a bunch of stuff for our house. So in between those days or leading up to that day when it first started snowing, we also worked in our hallway. That's what we were kind of renovating a little bit and fixing up. So we worked to get rid of all that trim, and this is going into that house vlog. So eventually, if not before this video, I'm gonna say after this video, that video will be posted. But we took down trim, we went ahead, primed, we did a bunch of stuff and fixed the walls. And then we went to Home Depot. We bought a bunch of wood. We kind of miscalculated because we changed our plans, so we ran out of wood. So that's one reason why we aren't still doing stuff, and we have to think about the other side of the hallway because we have a couple options with getting rid of the pantry and also changing out our son's door to a smaller door, or just maybe getting a bifold door or cutting his door in half and making them open like this, because you can't have a full-size vanity in there with how big our doors are because they are wheelchair accessible doors. And so we only have about 2 inches that we can extend the vanity, which is not the normal width or depth of a vanity. So we have a few things that we're kind of figuring out right now, and we do need to finish the half wall. We've done technically 2 walls, 1 small wall and then our main wall. It is so nice. I am so excited about this because it looks so good. My husband did a great job. We will eventually stain it, eventually find hardwoods to match it, and then also we have a little trim piece down at the bottom, but that little trim piece at the bottom will be added after we find hardwoods and we can officially finish the walls. So that is what we've been doing these last couple days. I did read off and on, kinda, besides like the 2 full days we were actively setting up the wall. I didn't read any of those days, but otherwise I thought I had updated and I was maybe like 100 or 200 pages into this book. It's only 314 pages, and turns out that when I finished it last night, I'm talking till like 1 a.m. I read about like 60 or so pages last night because I just wanted to be done with it, including today. We have only 2 days left of January, so I wanted to be done with this, and I had plans to actually finish 2 more books this month. I don't know if I'm gonna get there. So we do have Strands of Truth that I did finish last night. I just really thought I had updated before, a little bit after I had already read, so I'm so sorry. I think I was, like I said, around 100 pages. So there was a lot going on, and there was the actual person that was, there's a couple people, but there's like a murderer and then somebody who's involved and then a father, like that type of situation. I wondered, or I had guessed about them, but it was so far so early in the beginning that I was like, it's a little far-fetched. I just feel like something's wrong about them, and I feel like there's a reason, especially when we get one specific phone call. I'm like connecting the dots, but I'm like, this is a little far-fetched. And then, however, we get to the end and I ended up being right. And in between those two, because I didn't want to believe that the person or the people that I thought were like the bad people, I'm sitting here wondering, okay, well, if that's not the case, who else could it be? And I could not think of a single other person. So for the rest of this book, I wasn't sure exactly who I predicted, who would be the bad person at the end, even though I predicted it early on. I really enjoyed this book. It wasn't my top book from her. I think if I would have read it closer together, didn't skip a couple days, it probably would have been a 4.5 to 5 stars, because in the beginning, I was really loving it, really enjoying it. I liked the characters. I liked the people that have like a subplot of romance together. I like a lot of the things about this book. Also, with that being said, there are some characters that it's like a friend group, and I was sitting here thinking, I swear, because they're in the Coast Guard, they came from somewhere else, and the way that they were talking in this book, I was like, these are the same people from the Hope Beach trilogy. And I kept thinking that, and it was bugging me. And then I think like the last 10 pages, I get the information that they had once been at Hope Beach, because she has something that happens. I'm not gonna spoil this, but she has something that happens. But the 3 girls from each of the books from the Hope Beach trilogy, the 3 main characters, they all got to come at the end of this book, and our main character in this book got to meet them. And I was like, I knew deep down that they were from the Hope Beach trilogy. So I loved that. I thought that was so interesting, because this is like its own book, a standalone, but it also kind of entwines with a couple other books that are interconnected, but it's not actually in the series. And it does look like it on the spine. Like, this book matches that whole trilogy that I have. So I think this is perfect, and I really recommend this. I think for especially like a true standalone, this was very interesting. I rated this 4 stars. So with that being said, because I finished Strands of Truth last night, I wanted to go ahead and hop into one of my 2 library books that I have, and I decided on this one. It is a little bit longer, but I'm hoping, because it's large print, that maybe I will end up finishing it in 2 days, because like I said, we only have 2 days left. So this is actually called The Hider, Lauren D. Esselman, and this book in particular is both on Goodreads and it's also on Storygraph. However, it is not on Fable. So I think she has another one called The Wolfer or The Wolf or something like that, and I actually have that book listed as the book that I'm currently reading on Fable, because it's like, I don't want to not include a book on my Fable, and I just want to say that I track something. So instead, I do have this book. Like I said, I'm on my Western kick. In some of my videos, I've been stating that I love Western. I have for a very long time. I grew up watching Westerns, old Western movies. I grew up technically on The Rifleman, Bonanza, Big Valley, Gunsmoke, etc., etc. Those are my favorite TV shows, and I love those TV shows. I sometimes sit down with my son and have him watch them. And then, especially with books, sometimes I love going back to them. So I'm trying to branch out, especially with the library, and pick up more Westerns and see if I like them and then add them to my shelf. So we do have this book, and this book is apparently about a guy who is tracking the long lost buffalo. There's only like one in existence, I guess. Originally, there's a bunch of herds of buffalo. They all start going extinct, and he's following this one either herd or this one specific buffalo, and he's going to go kill it. He is traveling with an 18-year-old boy, and I guess that boy kind of joins him, or he like comes by his house and then the boy ends up going with him. And so far into this book, I'm like 2 pages into it. We get the POV where we're starting out with the boy and he's telling the story, and it's very interesting so far. While these 2 are going on an adventure together, they cross paths with a Native American who's wrongly accused of murder, and so then they go out looking for the murderer, and some other things happen. In this 18-year-old boy, it says like that he is potentially targeted by ruthless men, and they either want to capture him or potentially kill him. So I'm really excited to hop into this, and I love this cover. This is why I picked it up. It looks so pretty, and I hope that this book is so good, because I would love to own a copy of this book. I just wanted to say that I did finish Strands of Truth. I'm so sorry about that I never really recorded. I will do better with this book, and I will hope to try and finish this book by tomorrow, or at least at the end of tomorrow. Hello everybody, I want to do a little update. It is the next day. So yesterday we did start, I had to cover up the library thing, but we did start The Hider, and I only got to, at the end of the day, I started this morning off and we were at page 72. I'm currently at 118, so I've just read a little bit more. We've kind of been busy a little bit today, and also we slept in a little bit later. It is Saturday, and so far my thoughts on this book is I'm kind of enjoying it. I have almost like I'm in the middle feeling right now. I'm very annoyed with the copy I have because it's not mine, so I don't want to damage it, but I just want to crack the spine because it is so difficult to read. When I open, I'm pretty much only getting this much, which seems like a lot, but when you hold it, especially in the first half, it's more like stiff, and also just annoying when I'm holding it. I have to try and like open it just right so I can read along the spine on both sides, or at least in the crack. I can't open it too much because I don't want to crack the spine for sure and ruin this, because this also is a new book at the library, or at least it says new on the spine. So they probably just recently got it, and I don't want to damage one of their new books. But I like the concept so far of this book because we're following, like the back of the book stated, that we're following this character who is 18 and he meets up with this guy who's just passing along, and he actually is walking past his house, and his father and his mother is already dead. His father had just, I think, recently passed away. His mother died like 9 years ago, and we get where he asked this stranger if he can go with him on this like adventure, I'm just gonna say, but they're gonna go track down the last remaining buffalo. That's pretty much the story, or at least how our main character ends up meeting our other character and then goes along on this adventure. While on the way, they stop after it's raining. They stop and find shelter because our other main character that he meets up with, his name is actually Jack. That is the hider. And Jack is so sure about this little, I think it's just a little cabin or this little shack in the middle of the woods. So since it's pouring down raining, they go the extra miles and they detour a little bit, but it's along the way that they were headed anyways. And they stop in the shack, and once they're there, they light a fire in the stove, they eat some bacon, have some beans, the usual. But then I think throughout the night, we wake up, or our main character wakes up, and he realizes that Jack is by the window, and he tells him not to make a noise. And then what kind of happens is somebody runs into the shack with a knife, and it's actually a Native American, an Indian, and his name is Logan, or he goes by Logan. He's just in there. They basically disarm him and then make sure that he's not going to kill them, and they don't really trust him too much, especially because of the time period and what has been going on. So they're kind of worried that he might scalp them if they go back to sleep. So they leave him basically tied to a chair, go to sleep, because while this guy shows up, not too long after that, they go to, I think it's actually later in the day, after they wake up, they go to leave, the main character and Jack, and then as they're leaving, they get shot at. So they go back into the shack where their friend Logan, or their soon-to-be friend in a way, Logan, is still tied to the chair, and he's got his knife that he was disarmed, and it's in front of him basically, but more on the floor. And so he then has to try and get himself out, and the two of them are like, why are these people following you? What is going on? Why are they shooting? Blah, blah, blah. Give us answers. And so then we hear the story about why exactly he's running from these people, what happened, how he is actually framed for murder. It's one of those that we're not sure if he did it or not just yet, but I feel like it's kind of interesting. And now they are, as a team in a way, like all three of them, trying to go track down this buffalo for right now, and also trying to flee the people, or the guy who was just chasing them, because he kind of went away when they killed off one of his people. So I feel like right now this book is more of just a 3-star. It's not really bad. I think I was hoping for a little bit more, but I'm hoping that it'll pick up a lot more, and I wanted to try and be as close to being done with this book as possible, and I didn't get very far. I was hoping to be like 150 or so into it yesterday, and I think I'll definitely get to page 150 tonight, but I don't know if I'm gonna read to page 200 or so, because it is already late. I mean, it's not that late. It's only 6:30 at night, but I also have other things that I want to be doing. I will come update you guys probably tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, and I don't think we have too many plans, or any plans at all. So it will be hopefully a good day, even though it will be the 1st of February, to try and tackle a lot of these pages and potentially finish the book if I wanted to. I know I could have sat down and finished this book if I really wanted to, at least if not yesterday, then today. I felt like I had to do more than just sit around and read. I needed to work on some stuff, and I did. I caught up on a lot of things, and I cleaned the house, so I feel much better about that. But that's really all I have to update for tonight, so I will see you guys all tomorrow. Hello everybody, good morning. I want to kind of update what I read up to yesterday in the hider, and I actually stopped on page 170 this morning, waiting on my husband to get to work. I did sit and read just a little bit. I'm now on page 200. I think I'm right before chapter 20, and I think like 220 is actually chapter 20, and I'm still really enjoying this. I told my husband I'm so sorry that I went to the library and I got this book, but I'm enjoying my time reading it. I told him I'm so sorry, but I do want to go, and it'll probably be on Thrift Books, and go pick up this book. I thought the library was supposed to help you not necessarily add to your books. I mean, maybe not add to my physical TBR, but yes, add to my bookshelves. I have been enjoying this, and right now it's funny because our two main characters, I'm gonna say, Jack and his actual name, the little boy, or the 18-year-old, his name is actually Jeff. So they are still trying to buffalo hunt, and there have been a few, I'm gonna say, circumstances that have happened once they picked up the Indian Logan, and then also some things that just kind of happen as soon as they get released in a way from a certain location. Then all of a sudden the main character Jack is like, no, I'm gonna go actually continue on my trail. If you want to go somewhere else, you can, but I'm gonna do this. I'm hunting this buffalo. So I only have about, I think, like 114 or so pages left, and I'm hoping to finish this today. I would love, honestly, to finish this book. Hello everybody, I want to do another update and also final update on the hider. Yesterday or last night it did snow again. I think we got like 3 inches, or it called for 3 inches. I think we got more, and everything that was coming down was so wet, so thick, so fluffy. Also it laid so beautifully, so everything is coated in white just the way I feel like it should be. It's so beautiful. Everything's the same color, but it's honestly so beautiful. I love when it snows. I'm just also am ready for it not to necessarily snow anymore, but I did finish this book last night and I enjoyed it. I rated it 3.5 stars overall. It was pretty decent, and I really like how originally we have this main character who stumbles across, or this guy who is the hider, his name is Jack. He comes and meets our main character Jeff, and it's not that he really meets, he just stumbles across basically, and then Jeff asked if he can go with him on this adventure to go hunt this buffalo, and that is technically the entirety of this book. They are tracking down this one last buffalo, and then there are some things that happen, especially when they pick up the Native American along the way. When they pick him up, some things go on. There's a couple different events that happen. I like also when we get to this German village and some of the things that happen. That is, I feel like, the main thing that actually went on, like the main event and the conclusion to this book for the most part. But I also like how this book truly concluded, and how we don't have a definite answer of like our main character seen this person and knows everything that went on in the next couple years. I actually really enjoyed this. I'm glad I got this from my library, and also that I tackled it. I will probably be picking this up, but what's really nice is because I already read it, I'm not adding to my physical TBR. For my third book in this reading vlog, I did want to go ahead and hop into my only other library book that I have, and it is also a Western. It's also, I think, a newer book. I think this one was actually 2025, give or take, and it is called Nordic and Finn, and this also is book 1 of a trilogy, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to read the whole series. I mean, obviously if I get more into this book and I like it, maybe I'll continue it on, but the main reason that I picked this up is truly because of the cover, and same with the last book. I just love how these covers look, and also because they're Westerns. So hopping into this, I'm only about 30 pages into it. I just picked it up this morning, started reading it just a little bit, and it's reading along pretty decent. I do kind of like how we have this main character. We get a lot of background on him, and then kind of he goes into this town to pick up a couple supplies. He stumbles across this dog that all these kids are kind of around. I think they're beating it with a stick or something. They're just being mean to him. He does not like people very much, and he especially does not like these kids. And then he yells at the kids, and I can't remember what exactly he says, but basically he's like, if you don't quit torturing that dog or something, I'm gonna hold you down and let the dog bite off your ears. Well, then of course the leader of those little kids, or the one boy, runs off, goes tells his daddy. So while our main character, and his name is Anders, while Anders is actually in the saloon and he's getting a couple drinks and also he's eating some stew, lo and behold, this guy walks into the saloon and a sheriff walks in with him. So this guy's like, who do you think you are yelling at my son? Do you know who I am? And automatically this main character is like, this is why I don't like people. This is exactly why I don't like people. I can't go nowhere into town without trouble somehow. So then there's this situation that kind of breaks apart. The sheriff is trying to arrest him because of freedom of speech and basically just being a nuisance, I guess, but there wasn't real causes. And then the sheriff gets a little too close and he ends up punching him in the nose and like maybe breaking his nose, but at least it was bloody. And then he just kind of took off on his horse. He didn't run away, but he just kind of got out of town, just like walked, and he was like, screw this, I'm going home. And he actually ended up having that border collie, the dog that he helped, ended up going home with him. So then he's on this trail and he detours from the main trail and he's on like little sub trails. And while he's on these old trails, they catch up, or a new sheriff or a different deputy catches up with this banker and also his little posse that he rounded up and hired in a way. And then they're trying to go and get him because he just like assaulted this officer, or this lawman. And while they are there, the deputy draws his gun and goes to shoot him, and instantly he draws his gun, shoots the deputy dead. So now he has a case for wanted murder, but at the same time he's like, if you guys want to mess with me, like, this is what happens. And the other ones turned, hightailed it out of there, and the banker was kind of reluctant to leave a little bit, but then he did leave. And now we get to where just now, just 30 pages into the book, he is returning home with his border collie and also his horses and some supplies that he got in town. That's all I've gotten in this book, but I feel like it's kind of been very interesting. A lot has happened in the last 30 pages. I mean, a lot in the beginning, the first like 5 to 10 pages, I was like, oh my gosh, we are just info dumping. Don't know if it's just because I came off of the other book, so going into this book, just how I felt, or if it's just a lot that was going on in the very first couple pages. But I mean, it makes sense. We got to get an introductory. This is going to be the next book that I'm going to hop into, and I'm excited. It's fairly short, like 250 pages, but hopping from a large print edition from the last book to this print edition, which it's not even that big and it's not that small, it's a normal font size, but because I had a large print edition, I feel like it's so tiny now. I think also after this book we will have one other book, one that everybody has seen or heard of of, or maybe even read. I think that will be my final book for this reading vlog, and then we will end it out because I've been looking at that book sitting on my shelf for so long and I really want to get to it, and I think it would be good to kind of record how I feel, or at least my time reading it. And also I think I need a little small break from Westerns. I think I'm kind of overdoing it just a little bit. Hello everybody, I have an update. I've been reading yesterday. I only read I think around 50 pages or so, and then today, actually just not too long ago, I read all the way up to just now, which is chapter 11, 102, page 102, page 103, and I have to say that I have actually been really invested into this book. I thought in the beginning when it first started, I thought it wasn't going to be as good as the last book. Maybe I'm getting burnout on Westerns because I'm just going a little bit crazy in a way. Like, I just really love the time period, I love Westerns, and I like how I feel when reading this. However, that is not the case. After we got like 22, maybe 40 pages into this, I feel like I was really hooked. And ever since page 50, I feel like I can just sit down and just binge read it in a very good way. And also I feel like I can sit and read multiple pages. Like, we're talking 50 to 100 pages. If I wasn't so busy today, I think I would have sat down a lot more and I would have read a lot more. And I do think I'm going to continue reading, but I just wanted to say that I am enjoying this a lot more than in the beginning, and I'm so happy about that. There is a little small portion of it, and I mean like one scene in a way, like 2 sentences worth, where it wasn't necessarily a clean, it wasn't too bad, but it was basically like this main character and this girl, actually he technically went down first to the creek and he was getting a shower, and then the girl went down and she didn't have anything on, and then when they got out and she looked up and down at him basically, and he looked up and down, and then that was like as descriptive as it got. But at the same time, I wasn't necessarily wanting any of that information or necessarily prepared for it, but so far that's been the only thing. So within 100 pages, and this is only like 260 pages, I feel like that's not too bad. That's how descriptive the scene pretty much was, so I'm not complaining too much. Really have been enjoying our main character and some of the things that's been going on, and I kind of like one of the marshals or deputies. Well, he's not a deputy, I'm pretty sure he's like the main marshal. I really like him and kind of his thought process, and right now there's some things about him that is like really bad. He's not a great character and he's not necessarily a really bad character either, but there's a couple people who it's not that I've been enjoying, but like I like having a character that is just mean or just not really nice to even his sons, and I think it makes for a good, not necessarily a protagonist, but a good character, and like building up the character and talking about him. I think it makes it good to have a good vast variety of characters in this book. So I do want to go sit and read some more, but I just wanted to hop on and just say that I have been enjoying this book a lot more than when we started, and I'm so glad I picked this up. Guys, I want to come on here and do a little bit of a late night update on Nordic and Finn. So I have been kind of off and on reading pretty much, not necessarily all day, but a big portion of today. I think I've read about 70 pages this morning while in bed waiting on my husband to kind of wake up because he was actually home, stayed home from work, he was sick. And then afterwards, it's like I did some stuff, we both did some stuff during the day, got some stuff done here at the house, and then I went back and I read a little bit of my book. Well, because of that, I started then wanting to really read my book, because after he finished some work that he had, since he can work from home, he was starting to play games, and I wanted to sit down there with him downstairs in our basement and read. And in a way, I wanted to record, but at the same time, I was like, I really don't like how our basement looks. If you've seen our basement, like our house tour and stuff, then you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the multi-color basement. There's so many shades, so many different paint colors just down there in the basement on the walls, let alone. It's from the previous owners, and it's one thing that we really wanted to change. It's just something. That's all I'm gonna say. I didn't really want to record down there, but now I'm gonna have to record because there has been something that just happened that I was so shocked about. I was not expecting it at all. I really had no idea what was going to happen. I'm glad it happened to one person, not the other person, but like I just was not expecting the author to do this, and it got me. And I'm just going to say this book has been so binge worthy. I feel like the pacing has just picked up in the last, I'm gonna say like 150 to 200 pages. I have been devouring this book. Like, I really like this book a lot, and I want to try and finish it. I have officially less than 50 pages left to read, so I'm gonna go downstairs, try and read as much as possible, but first I have to put my son to bed and read to him, and then I gotta switch the laundry. So I'm gonna put off a little bit of this book, but I am so excited to actually actually kind of record maybe me finishing it tonight. Hopefully tonight. It is fairly late though. It's like 10:30, so. But guys, I just don't know what to think. Like, I am so invested into this book, and it's such a great feeling because I was so unsure in the very beginning. Also, because it's winter, it is so cold down here. So I have this blanket around my arms and then the gray blanket that I keep down here for my feet. I moved upstairs because I was so cold and I felt like I was falling asleep downstairs. I'm still so exhausted, like I feel like I could fall asleep. This is a terrible chair for me to actually try and read and sit in and not fall asleep. However, I finally finished the book and I want to update you guys, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Another day basically when I'm not so tired, and I'm just gonna sit and write in my reading journal my thoughts, my updates, my rating, everything like that, and then I will come back on here tomorrow, tell you about the book, and also introduce you to our fourth and final book of this reading vlog. I'm so excited to get into that book and read it, but just not tonight. I don't think I can do anymore. I'm exhausted. All right, everybody, it's the next morning. I'm gonna try and keep this fast because we're about to leave and go somewhere. However, I wanted to do an update, or actually you guys seen that I finished this last night, and I have to say I rated this 4.5 stars. I thought this was so bingeable, so fast paced, especially towards the end, and I liked a lot of the characters, even some of the bad ones. I liked how this book was written. I liked the little town being not so perfect and some of the bad things that went on, and then of course the little, I'm gonna say like adventure, but when they leave the town, everything that kept happening. I think this was worth my time, especially for a Western, and I want to pick up the rest of the series. This is book 1 to a start of a series, but honestly I had such a fun time that I'm excited about book 2 eventually getting it. I think the first step is to buy book 1. I'm glad I stumbled across this in the library. It was worth it. For our final book in this reading vlog, I'm going to be hopping into none other than The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. If you've been here to my channel for a while, you know that I've been trying to find this in hardcover because Christmas was rolling around. My husband actually found this on Amazon, bought this for me. It did come pre-damaged, and last night I had just fixed it. I used some like tacky glue. You can kind of see where it's like glued together. It was completely ripped in the binding, and I could basically take this cover and bend it off the spine a lot, so it came damaged, which I felt really bad about because I noticed it right away. But I'm so thankful for this book, and I'm going to be hopping into this today, and I'm so excited about this. I think if I remember correctly, this is President Snow's, and I really want to get to Hamage's, so I really don't want to necessarily rush through this, but I just want to sit and devour this. And this is the chunkiest one. It's like 500 pages, so I feel like we're gonna have so many events happening in this book, and I'm so excited for it. Oh man, it has been a little bit of time since I've last updated. It has been very busy here in our house. I actually chose to move a lot of stuff out of the living room, and I started working on that, and hopefully I will be painting an actual paint, not just primer today, and hopefully that will be finished with at least one wall, and I can move some stuff back and then work on the last 2 walls because the 4th wall is going to be waiting until we get an archway put in for our double doors, our arch double doors that we just picked up not too long ago. We have been kicking butt, been very busy, also have been extremely exhausted. I felt so exhausted, and I haven't had too much time to read. I did yesterday throw on the audiobook for just a little bit, probably about an hour, so I've read a lot more, and I was, I think, just barely right before page 100, and I wanted to update before I hit page 100, but this morning I threw on the audiobook and apparently I went all the way to page 200. I feel like it's due time now to actually give you my first thoughts on this book. And first off, I do like that we are given this POV, like this book is just about President Snow and kind of what he went through when he was growing up. However, I feel like in a way this book started off very slow for me, and I don't know if it's just because I was busy starting on other stuff in the house, wasn't really invested as much as I really wanted to be. This is just how the book starts with almost everybody who reads it, so I felt like it was a little bit slow. I'm definitely come around to it a lot more. I feel like it's picked up, the pacing is a lot more interesting, but I'm also in part 2 of this book. I was also thinking that this story was going to be like the whole reasoning of President Snow is the way he is, and I do feel like maybe later in this book we will get more of a monumental thing that happens to him, and I do see something potentially happening because of a certain character that he is kind of involved with. However, I feel like he's just a bad character in general. Like, he was born this way. He wasn't necessarily born really nice and then had something tragic happen to him that made him the way he was in the original trilogy. I feel like he's always had this just weird bad side to him in a way. And it's not that I'm upset about that, but I was just really hoping for like a very big monumental piece, basically. All the puzzle pieces to fall in place, like, oh, this is exactly what happened to him. This is why he's the way he is. You know what I mean? I am kind of interested in his little prodigy in a way, that he is a first time, I think this is 10 years into the Hunger Games. 10 years after the war, he lived through the war, but he was really young. That was when like the districts rebelled. And then also he is now the first set of mentors to go on with the Hunger Games. So I find that very interesting, and I do like him and his girl that he is mentoring. However, I'm really getting tired of hearing her full name. It's okay, we can just call her by the first name. That is totally fine. Also, I think she's the gamekeeper, or she's like the creator of the games. I can't remember exactly what she does, but her name, I guess in the audiobook it's Dr. Gall. However, my last name used to be Gall, which was Gall, and it is pronounced Gall in the audiobook, but it's not spelled like that. It's spelled like ghoul, basically. So I don't know what to think about her name, because I refuse to believe it's my last name because it's not spelled the same. She's a little bit, in a way, psychotic, and some of the things about her I find very interesting. Some of the events that have been taking place around her have been very interesting, and I want to know more a little bit about her, or maybe in the future what happens to her. I feel like there's some big plots maybe that will involve her. I don't know. I'm very interested to see if this book is going to exactly say how President Snow became President Snow, because right now he's a kid, he's a mentor, he's struggling in a way, they have some bad stuff that's going on in their life, but he's not what he is in the original trilogy. So I'm hoping that by the end of this book we'll get more insight into that. Otherwise, I feel like this isn't really a bad book so far. It just started off a little slow. I fear that I have never really truly thought about how exactly the districts were laid out. I knew this was dystopian. I knew this was more so North America and maybe other places, but more so North America. And I just really didn't think about where exactly the districts were at. And now I'm really thinking about how District 12 being coal mining and just some of the things, the characteristics, especially in the movies, once you see it, it's definitely giving me the Appalachian Mountain vibes. We're in section 3, and I don't want to give too much detail because I don't want to spoil nothing, but I'm also a little bit confused because I have a lot of questions about what's going to be happening in the rest. We have just under 200 pages left, and I fear that either we're going to skip a bunch or I'm not going to get the ending that I wanted, because I still have a big question as to how a specific person gets into a certain position, a certain like power, so to say, in the original trilogy. And I was hoping that this book would kind of touch on that a little bit. And then we have a thing that's going on that might be 20 years worth. Don't think we're going to get all 20 years in just 200 pages. It wouldn't necessarily make sense. And also I have some other questions about like a specific character, and I was also wondering if maybe she is the one character, or there is a specific person who from a certain district had won the Hunger Games one time, and I wasn't sure if this was the same character or not, because I think it's said in the original trilogy, but I don't remember if it was said that it was a boy, it was a girl, if it was this long ago, if it wasn't. So I had a lot of questions on that, and I'm still not 100% sure, but I want to keep reading. I'm just very much just reading. I'm not like thinking too much. I have a lot of questions, but I'm not trying to guess because I'm just here for it right now. I'm just reading it, and like I said, I'm not sure how it's going to end fully. Hello everybody, I'm looking really rough and I'm so sorry about that. However, I have been reading for the last, I think like hour or so maybe, and I'm on page 496, 497, and we have like 20-30 pages left of this book, and I am so confused right now. What's going on? We have Snow, I'm just gonna say, going to a specific location. More so, he's already met up at a specific location and they're going together, and him and another person are going together out. We're gonna keep it at that. So I'm kind of confused because the Snow that we know from the original trilogy, I understand that something has to happen in order for this book to end with the possibility of what we know from the original trilogy. But right now we're sitting and I'm kind of confused with this little bit of pages. All these things are gonna wrap up, I'm just gonna say, but I guess I'll just keep reading. I am gonna move locations. I've been reading in bed. I am dressed, I'm ready for the day. I mean, it's a very gloomy day day. We're supposed to be having tornadoes probably tonight. So I'm just gonna go move into the living room and see if I can finish this book. Guys, I did finish the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I feel like I have a little bit of a mixed review and I want to talk about it. Hopefully not talk too much about it, but definitely talk a lot about it. But side note, look at our nice freshly painted living room. It looks both orange, or at night it looks like a little bit of pink, like a light rose color, but at the same time it's an off-white with a little bit of tan in it, and it looks so good. I hated that gray so bad, and it has brightened up the living room. I could not sit here on the couch without being directly either facing the sliding door or facing the window, and now I can just record wherever. That's a little side note. However, with this book, I feel a little bit mixed because overall with how I felt while reading it, the flow, the pacing, for the most part, it was a 3-star book. I think I'm just going to rate it 3 stars. I feel like my most interesting moment was when we were in the Hunger Games, but at the same time, while we were reading about the Hunger Games, or while I was actually listening to it and painting, it was just a little slow. Underwhelming a little bit, because in the original trilogy, we have 2 different Hunger Games technically, and they're just very action-packed. And I feel like there was a little bit of action, and I thought, you know, there's something in specific that happens with Snow and Sejanus, and I was thinking, okay, that's the most adventure or the most action-packed scene we have in the whole Hunger Games, in my opinion. And also I felt like the conclusion of the Hunger Games was just a little bit dull. I understand it, but I also just feel like maybe we could have made it a little bit more eventful. Also, I was hoping that this book would give us a little bit more insight onto how Snow became president specifically. Like, I think we get a good basis of that, but I just was hoping that we would also get more in the future, maybe in like an epilogue or something. We'd get a little bit more into the future. And I feel like overall, it was a little bit slow. It wasn't my favorite book by far. It was my least favorite book. However, I understand why it was written like this. It's more of like getting to know Snow, his character, and some of the things that either he went through or he decided to have happen to himself. Like, he made decisions and this is why it happened. And there were some things that it's almost like you wonder why he's such a bad person, but by the end of the book it's kind of like, okay, there might have been a couple things that could have made him a bad person, but for the most part he did this to himself, or he was just born a terrible person. Like, he wasn't the best of people. He had a terrible character. And so I understand that, and I feel like Susan Collins did a really good job on his character and also this book, but I just don't think I enjoyed this book a lot. So I feel like it's a very mixed review in that aspect, because there's a part of me that could see why this book gives you more information. So it could be like a 4 stars for me. Maybe not a 4.5 or 5 star, but definitely like a 4 stars. But then because of my time reading it, it's one of those that I just knock it down to 3 stars. So I'm happy I got to it. It is fairly chunky, and it is a really good book to read in between the original Hunger Games and then going into Sunrise on the Reaping. And I'm very excited for Sunrise on the Reaping, but I think I'm gonna give it a couple months because I have some other books that I really want to get to here soon, and also maybe finish a certain series. But this one, I don't know, I'm not disappointed about it. I feel so indifferent in a way. Like, I wanted more, but I also feel like I got more in other aspects that I wasn't expecting, and I might have just expected a little bit too much, or had my hopes set for a specific thing or a specific part of Snow's life, and we didn't really get that. But I understand why it was made, if that makes sense. So I do recommend this. I would just go into it knowing that it's probably not going to be the best book. It's a little bit slow, you get a lot of information, but it gets better. I feel like in the middle section during the Hunger Games, then kind of slows down a little bit. I'd say my least favorite part, but also a very good informative part, is section 3, which is the Peacekeeper. And I do kind of agree with some of the comments about obsession in a way, because I don't think it was love. I think it was obsession. That's all I'm going to really say about this book. So thank you all so much for watching this reading vlog. I know it was a little bit long and I felt really bad about skipping multiple days. I know there were some days that I just randomly came on here and updated you and I was either halfway through the book or had finished a book, and I don't even remember. I think The Hider was the first book that we started, or maybe it was Strands of Truth by Colin Cowell. It has been a very long time for me. I'd say at least a couple weeks, if almost a month, considering I took a 5-day basically break just to do this entire living room. So I'm so sorry for that. I hope this vlog turned out pretty decent, and I hope you guys did enjoy it. I hope to see you in another video here on my channel, and as always, God bless.